Hey everyone, this is Chris Benedetto from Chris Benedetto Racing. Today I'm going to show you guys how to change the rear pads and rotors in a MECHANICAL GTI. So you're going to want to have a couple things before you even get started. I don't want you to tear it apart and then have to stop and put it all back together. So for rear pads, you cannot just compress the caliper. You're going to need something like this attached to something like this, which goes into the caliper. This is gonna turn, and then it's gonna in turn turn the piston inside and turn it backwards. So you're gonna need one of those. You can pick them up pretty cheap. You're also gonna need a 14mm triple square. This is a vital piece. If you don't have one, you can usually find them online, but get one before you start this project. Also, cans of brake clean. If you're doing any type of rotors, they have an oil on them that you need to get off before you can install them. Otherwise, it'll ruin the brake pads. Yeah, and then also, you're going to want to have a skinny 15mm wrench. It's got to be skinny. And I'm going to show you why in a couple minutes. All right, let's get to it. All right, so as you can see, my pads are quite low. I was always taught that if they are lower than the thickness of the backing plate, that it's probably a good idea to change them, if you're on a racetrack. If you're just doing normal driving, not a big deal, but if you're on a racetrack, don't let them go below the backing plate size. So this is what I was talking about. You're going to need to put a 13mm socket on here, and then the 15mm goes in here. You're going to need to hold that while you turn this. It is very normal. A lot of my wrenches won't fit in here, so that's why I said you need something a little skinnier. So first thing you're going to do is take these two off. You can see that one down below. I already took that one out. And after you get those off, we're going to start to pull the caliper off. Alright, so now we have the caliper loose. As you can see, this you cannot push in. It must be turned. That's where those two little notches go. So you can see the brake pads. Once you wiggle the caliper loose, it should come right off. You're going to pull the brake pad loose. As you can see, we're getting pretty low, getting pretty close to the backing plate. With rear brakes, especially in the MECHANICAL GTIs, you don't really need to change rear brake pads. If you're on the track, you're going to want to change the fronts. That's definite. Otherwise, you'll overheat them. I already had some stainless steel lines on. They are Stop Tech, and yeah, they've worked really well. Makes the the pedal feel a little bit stiffer. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take this piece and slide it in here like so. See how it locks in? And then we're going to take the other piece and lock it in to the caliper and start turning. So once you're done, it's going to kind of look like this inside the caliper. And then we're going to take a wrench, hold on to this piece while we turn this here. Okay, because we're doing brakes, we're going to want to loosen the brake reservoir. Usually I'll just take off the cap and kind of place it somewhere so it won't blow away, because it is kind of light. This is so when we push fluid back through, it's not pushing up against pressure. Okay, once we get it pushed all the way in, it should look something like this. Do be careful, this boot Just make sure when it's getting twisted, it doesn't catch or rip in any way. You kind of want to just pay attention to it. It's not really going to happen too often, but I just like to tell people to keep an eye on it. You don't need to replace a whole caliper because of something like a silly mistake like that. So yeah, just pay attention to that. So we're going to take this off, and then we'll tear the bracket off, put some rotors on. Okay, so we're going to want to take some synthetic brake caliper grease, and we're going to pop these out. They just come straight out, and we're just going to grease them up. This one slides pretty freely, but put a little bit of grease in there, make sure they slide pretty freely, and then we'll take the bracket plate off. Okay, this is the triple square 14mm bolt. If you can kind of see it behind here. That's probably not a tool that you're going to have, so you're going to want to make sure you have that again before you start. You don't want to get this far and then have to put it back together. So there's going to be two of them. There's going to be one up top here. There's going to be one right here on the bottom. And it's going to take a lot of pressure to get them out. Suggest you have a long breaker bar or a lot of strength. Either way works. Alright, now that we got that off, I just tie my caliper up with like a strap. It's just easier that way. So you're going to want to take this T30 screw out. So this is going to happen one of two ways. One, it's going to be really nice and easy because it's pretty new. Mine are only about 1.5 years old. I burned through brakes pretty well on the track, so if this is happening a couple years down the road and this is rusty, you will probably need to take a hammer and smack the end of the bit as you turn it to loosen it, or you're going to want to bang it with a hammer to get it loose. Mine's going to come apart pretty easily, but again, that's another route. Alright, so mine came out really simply and easily. Just real easy. If you're running into trouble, put your bit into the screw, hold on to it with a pair of pliers, and smack it with the hammer as you turn it. So smack, turn at the same time, smack, turn at the same time, and that'll come right out if you run into any problems with it. Alright. Okay, so once we got the rotor off, it's going to come right off. I would advise you to do some prevention for the next time. If you've ever had to smack a rotor off with a hammer that was rusted on it, use some anti-seize. Just put it around the hub. It's going to help you in the long run. Another thing is usually do your lug bolts and anti-seize as well. It'll be helpful in the future. So, alright, so here is our new rotor. Vanes are always going to go toward the top of the caliper. Just follow the directions on your box. Anybody with slotted rotors is going to have you have right and left. So hopefully, anyway. So I have Ferodo brake pads. These are what I've found to be most effective for me on the track. These are the DS 2500s. This is the most effective on the track, as well as my daily driving. They are a little bit pricey, but they hold up to the heat I need them to on the track, and they are also okay in the Northeast winters. So yeah, I'm gonna spray this down with brake clean. Again, you have to get the this one's coated, but you have to get any oils during manufacturing off of the rotor before you install it. So I'm gonna spray it down and then put it on. Okay, so once we have everything up, we're just going to put the brake pads in. You're going to want to grease everywhere the brake pad touches that slider piece. Otherwise, you're going to have massive amounts of squealing. You're going to have squealing with these anyway, but you'll have massive amounts if you don't do that. So, also just check, make sure your brake pads are in right. Takes 2 seconds just to make sure everything's lined up and you're not off anywhere. And then we're going to tighten it back up. Alright, now that we got everything back together, everything's tightened up, time to put the wheels back on. Really important, follow the bed-in process that's stated in your brake pads. There should be some type of bed-in process, like 10 stops from, 60 to 10, and just follow along with that. You can also find them online. Ferodo's is listed with their brake pads and online. So yeah, also before you pull out, make sure you pump your brakes. The caliper has to squeeze the pads back to the rotor. So don't just start up and roll. You may have, your brake pedal may go to the floor. So pump the brakes, follow the bed-in process, and yeah, tighten your wheels back up. Alright, so everything's finished up, good to go. Brakes feel good. We're gonna put the new brake sticker on there till they get bedded in. Call it a wrap.
Thanks for watching CB Racing. Click that bell down below and subscribe to our channel and give us a big thumbs up.